Hey everybody, I'm Dennis Crenshaw and I'm going to be presenting a training for you today. And today we're going to cover incident investigations. Incident investigations are very critical to safety, and I'm going to show you a video that kind of supports what I'm saying.
When the machine was turned off and it was quiet, I opened up my eyes. My first thought was, this is not happening. Somebody was holding my neck and they had to take the arm out and they got it uncaught and then they set it on top of me. The arm was severe enough that when I got to the hospital, the doctor there in the ER wanted to amputate it.
Honestly, I can't remember how many surgeries she probably went through. It was kind of a blur.
It took a total of 5 years for me to go back to work after my injury.
My mom's very strong, and I was very proud of her because she did work very hard, and not everybody does that. So seeing her get to where she was, I was very proud of her, and I probably don't tell her enough. Or ever. I don't even know if I've ever told her that I'm proud of her.
Safety needs to be on the top of our minds every day so that the next worker doesn't have to experience an injury or a fatality to remind us why safety is so important.
Wow, that's really what it's all about, right? It's about people that are near and dear to us in our workplace that need us to go out there and to ensure that they have a safe place to work. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about incident investigations. It's a training program that I put together, and in this program we're going to talk about the why and the how and the when of safety investigation. We're going to start out, first of all, with the why. Why do we investigate? Well, number one is to prevent injuries and illnesses. You know that there was 2.8 million OSHA recordable incidents in the year 2022. 2.8 million. There were over 5,400 deaths that were reported. Not to mention that when we have an injury, it costs money. You know, I've always heard that it's cheaper to implement the safety than it is to try to treat the injury. And I went back and I pulled up some stuff from OSHA that I wanted to share with you. And it is a really interesting type of analysis that we can look at here. What this is this comes from the OSHA website, and it talks about OSHA's safety pays programs, all right? And what you can do in here is you can go in here and you can select an injury type. Let's say that we want to select contusion. We could select contusion or hernia or fracture, anything like that. And then we would just simply scroll down to this button here, and we could ask it to calculate it. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've put two different injuries in here. And as a matter of fact, there were two injuries that we had happen at our plant this past year. And the first one was a fracture. And what this does is it gives you an estimated total cost for the injury. Now, in here it says that the direct cost for a fracture is $54,000. Now, that's just the direct cost for the care and stuff. The indirect cost is the time away from work and stuff like that. But the total is going to be $115,000 in total cost to treat that individual. And that's what people kind of see, but they don't see what happens in the backside. Like, we're a winch manufacturing industry, and so when we're manufacturing winches, our direct costs, our direct and indirect, both of these will be within that. We have to sell a certain number of winches in order to make up for that, because we have a cost margin that we have to operate off of. And so if you take all sales that are necessary in order to pay for that injury, just that one injury, it's $3,800,000 in direct sales, right? And then we also had a contusion, and you can see that the contusion was $58,000, but the total sales that were necessary in order to pay for that injury was $1,934,100. So you can see that it's very important to do these investigations to save money, but it also demonstrates the commitment that we have to health and safety. It shows that we actually care about what's happening out there on the plant floor, that we can demonstrate to people that safety is our number one priority, and we're not just saying it, we're out there showing it. And also, it creates a positive morale out on the floor, or around the plant. When people see you out there actually doing what you say you're going to do, they look and they say, you know what, those people actually care about what's going on out here, and it raises their morale. So when we do an investigation, there's 4 steps basically that are involved in an investigation. And we're going to get into each one of these into a little more detail, but I want to go ahead and cover those 4 steps. All right, the first thing that we want to do is we want to preserve and document the scene. We want to collect the information that's necessary for the investigation. We want to determine the root causes, and then we also want to implement the corrective actions that are necessary to keep it from happening again, because that's really what it's all about, right? Is to keep somebody from getting hurt in the same type of situation. So, how to do the investigation? Well, in step 1, we have to preserve the documents, like I said. And when I talk about preserving documents, what I mean is that we have to get out there and we have to preserve the material evidence that is out there. So let's just take, for instance, that someone fell off a ladder. Well, we want to make sure that we preserve that evidence. We want to make sure that we get pictures and that we document who was out there, who were the witnesses. We want to take and we want to cordon off the area. We want to make sure that nobody gets over there and interferes with the preservation of the scene. And then after that, what we want to do is we want to collect the information. Well, there may be equipment manuals that we may need to review. There may be company policies and records that we need to access. Maybe it's maintenance schedules on the logs that we need to look at, or training records. Did the employee go through the training that pertained to that particular injury, or that particular machine that may have been involved in the injury, right? We also want to look and see, did we have any audits that were available? Did we identify this in a previous audit that we could go back and find out if we had implemented, and were our actions that we came up with at that time, did they need to be modified in some way? And also, we want to go out and we want to conduct the interviews. And you want to do these interviews while it's still fresh on the people's mind, because people tend to forget over time and forget very quickly. And the more time that lapses by, the cloudier they're going to be in their memory of the particular incident. That was step 2. And then step 3 is going to be to determine the root cause. The root cause is what set the process for the injury in motion. What was the actual cause of it all? It was the underlying reason for the injury, or the event that started and ended up in the injury. We want to look at things like, were there operational failures? And the best way that I have found to conduct these is through a 5 why investigation. Now, a 5 why investigation is just a root cause analysis, right? And what we want to do after that is we want to implement corrective actions, because as a result of your 5 why investigation, we are going to address, or we're going to identify a root cause. And after we've identified the root cause, what we want to make sure that we do is that we implement corrective actions. But we want to make sure that when we do that, that we are not coming to a superficial conclusion. Like, we don't want to, if it's someone who fell off a ladder, well, we don't want to say, well, Johnny just missed the step and it was all about Johnny. Superficial conclusions that do not amount to anything, right? And then we also want to implement follow-up action after we have found the corrective action that is necessary to take care of the problem. And so what I want to do right now is I want to go over with you a 5 why concerning an incident. Okay, and we're going to stay with the ladder situation, right? What we're going to say is we're going to define the problem, right? And I've put a template in your packet that is blank that you're welcome to use anytime that you have a need for that. But we're going to go through one today that's kind of basic that will show you the ease of the 5 why investigation. And that's kind of why I like it so much, is because it's easy to work with. The first thing we do is we define the problem. Well, the problem was that Tom broke his leg. Well, of course, that's what the problem was. It's very obvious. All right, but why did he break his leg? And that's what we're going to begin to ask ourselves. Well, why did this happen? Well, he fell off of a ladder. That's what we said earlier. Well, then we ask the question, why did he fall off the ladder? And then we identify the answer, which is that the ladder rung was damaged, right? And a lot of people would stop at that point and say, oh, but that's the obvious answer, that the ladder rung was damaged and therefore he fell off of a damaged rung. True enough. But was that actually the root cause? We're going to ask ourselves another question. We're going to say, well, why was the rung damaged? And it was because we have a process in place to evaluate our ladders, but it was not identified. And so the maintenance checks had not been done. And that's why the ladder was actually still damaged. All right, well, then we ask ourselves, well, why were the maintenance checks not done? And the answer to that is that there was a staff change, and that the new person that was responsible for doing those ladder checks was not trained in a timely manner. You know, so he had only been on the job, Tom had only been on the job for a matter of a couple of months, so he wasn't even aware of what these trainings were, right? And so after we dig and we get to the last why question, it says, why was the ladder maintenance checks not done? Well, the answer to that is actually our root cause. And it's that management failed to develop ladder inspection training as part of orientation. So this is our root cause. Now, once you identify the root cause, you want to implement some corrective actions. Well, the first thing that you want to do is the immediate corrective action. That immediate corrective action would be to remove the damaged ladder from use, of course. All right, but the actual corrective action that keeps it from happening again is to introduce the training of equipment inspections at the time of orientation. And that we have implemented a corrective action that is going to address the root cause of this particular incident. So after all of that, we have been able to identify the way to conduct an incident investigation. I want to thank everyone for their attention, and I would ask if you have any questions at this point that you could send those to me, or you could call me. You have my number. Thank you.